Is Weekend Deal, and I'm Elizabeth Abai. Now, yesterday you already saw clips of my colleague here, Ayuba. I hope you slept well, Ayuba.
I've had better
Just say
nights.
yes. All right, so we started a conversation yesterday, which is voter apathy and the absence of internal democracy. At the end of the day, a whole lot was laid on the table. One of them, I recall, was a lot of us are sitting on the fence because we actually do have power to do a lot of things and correct things that we think are not exactly well done. It is democracy and it is ours, and it is also our right to ensure that things are done and done well. All right, today we'll be continuing along that direction, buttressing a whole lot of other things. We have lovely people who will be joining us. One of them is a man we all respect, Professor Nuhu, and several other packages coming from different parts of the country will be showcased to educate us further. The basic thing is to elicit that positive response from all of us. If you do not have a voter card, it is time for you to go get one and, of course, participate in another election, because they are not just your leader, they are your servants, and you need to direct them right with your voter card.
That's right. And there's this anonymous saying that goes, democracy is the slow process to a definite future instead of stumbling into the wrong one. And it's been a slow process, but a short process, because we are much more better off than we used to be a couple of decades ago. So we can only get better, but then again, we need to step up.
It is about that time we set in full time and do good to our promise of keeping you abreast of what to do to be a better citizen and make your vote count. Of course, removing voter apathy. We started this conversation yesterday, like I told you, and a lot of things came up. One of them is a house divided against itself. How can that house stand? We're talking about the party democracy itself, the different political party democracies. Do they really have democracy? I don't know. But to put you on the right frame of mind to kickstart today's topic, let's join Francis Ogbe as usual, get to find out voter apathy and the absence of internal democracy.
Democracy as the rule of the majority is considered as superior to other forms of government. It is about the choice that the people make. It is the people that give impetus to democracy. But what happens when most of the people are nowhere to be found on the day of election?
Voter apathy simply means the reaction or behavior the electorate have towards a particular election. You know, there's a basic principle of democracy. It is called periodic elections. That is what qualifies a democracy. It is expected that after a while, election should hold after a period of time, and electorates or voters are expected to come out en masse and vote. So when they don't come out to vote, that is voter apathy. That is, they don't have belief, they no longer believe in the system, so they don't go out en masse to vote as expected in a representative democracy. People feel sometimes that their votes really don't count, and secondly, there are economic factors too. When people don't believe in the system and they believe maybe there's for one or two reasons, maybe economic reasons, yes, someone will feel like I cannot abandon what gives me my daily bread to go and queue.
Voter apathy makes elected political leaders unaccountable to the people, since they did not, in the real sense, derive their coming to power from the majority of registered voters. Also, voter apathy makes it a bit hypocritical for those who did not turn out to vote to criticize those who were elected through the same process that they boycotted. As it is often said, you cannot eat your cake and have it.
They don't really have to complain, yes, technically, yes. But if you look at it the other day, they would have to complain, yes, because they are part of the system. They are Nigerians too, so if they feel something is wrong, they will do. Of course, there's a huge implication because governance, it's not a single lane thing. It encompasses a whole lot of things. It encompasses the electorate and stakeholders, INEC, political parties, political leaders, traditional leaders.
The practice of turning election into a do-or-die affair in some polling units and collation centers in Nigeria has created fear and distrust among Nigerians. And this has led most people to neglect their civic duties and responsibilities.
The real culprits here are the political class, because they instigate this violence deliberately by arming those political thugs, especially when they see a certain thing not going in their way. They will just import thugs, they pay thugs, they arm them to go and disrupt election. So it happens at all levels, at the local level, at the state level, and even at the federal elections. So all these things are just part of, unfortunately, they are part of our electoral system, because it really contributes to the voter apathy that we talked about earlier. Because if I'm going out to vote and I realize that there will be thugs around with brandishing all sort of arms, I would be discouraged to go out and vote. I would rather stay at home.
In order to enhance quality participation, representation, and ensure good governance in the country, women must rise to the challenge of making their voices heard by participating actively in the democratic processes.
There's a report I saw about a while ago where they talked about Nigeria being among the countries that do not give women a lot of opportunities. So even if you could look at it from the House of Representatives down to the Senate, you could count the number of women. There are just few of them out there. Even in the heads of government agencies and parastatals too, it is still the same problem we're having there. There was this affirmative action that was being championed a couple of years. But as usual, it's turned out to be just a lip service, because they've not pursued it to the logical conclusion by ensuring that women are carried along, are given equal opportunities with men.
When the majority refuses to participate in voting, that does not in any way invalidate the outcome of the election. Sadly, we all suffer the consequences of staying aloof when the wrong people get into elected political offices.
We cannot deny the significance of technology in our lives. So as we are moving, we should be able to adapt to these changes that technology brings. So electronic transmission of results is one of those reforms that we're looking at. But more importantly, right now at the Senate, they're trying to ensure that political parties adopt direct primaries as against the delegates primaries, where a governor will sit down with some certain individuals and pinpoint who he wants to get what. He decides who gets what, when and how. So, but with these reforms now, you allow the people to come out, even at the primary election, to ensure that they bring out a particular candidate for a political party, political party. That way, it will kind of strengthen our democratic process, to restore confidence, and it will do away with the voter apathy we've been talking about.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on addressing the challenges of voter apathy in Nigeria.
Voter apathy and the absence of internal party democracy. A lot of people seem to forget the fact that not only are the people responsible for electing those people to represent them, but those people who are eventually elected should also be held accountable. So we would want to understand this situation. How accountable are these leaders after they get elected? Anyway, we have a report from Benin about holding politicians accountable after elections. Over to you, Benin.
Elections the world over are often preceded by political campaigns. These campaigns are usually organized by political parties to influence the decision-making process of the voter and to get those who agree with their ideas to support them when running for a political office. At the heart of these campaigns is the issue of accountability between those who are seeking for elective positions and those who have a role in passing judgment on how well that responsibility has been discharged.
When you are campaigning, you campaign with manifesto. This is what I'm going to do. This is my blueprint. In Nigeria, we don't have it.
People vying for elected position with all of the promises on earth. Yeah, but then when they assume office, it's a different ballgame.
How do the electorates feel about how well the elected officials have discharged the responsibility of being accountable?
After winning an election, getting access to them becomes a problem.
We are not satisfied. The thing we are seeing today is the other way around.
Human beings are not satisfiable, but in most cases, what they promise is even 98% are not fulfilled.
Perhaps the issue of accountability by elected officials is one of the reasons why voter apathy exists amongst the electorate, shrinking the voting right of the electorate every election year, as the voter feels like the political system does not work for them and any attempt to influence it becomes a fruitless exercise.
Those people that refuse to go and vote, they are doing more harm to the injury. No election I've never voted. I will vote my conscience.
If necessary, they should refuse to come out and vote for them. They will feel it.
For the people that don't vote, 50% of those people that don't vote, they feel like even if you vote this in or you vote another man in, like the hardship still continues.
How can the elected officials be held accountable?
Criticize when elected officers are not doing the right thing. By the time you put them on their toes, they will learn to really give out the dangers of democracy. So my advice, voters, don't just vote and go and sleep.
And people entering siren, son, voted you, then you refuse to do what you are supposed to. Then you know what you are going to face. Even if nobody hold you responsible here, God is going to hold you responsible without being told.
These days, all we do is protest, protest, and protest, though most times the results are not forthcoming.
The people feel that leaders should further demonstrate accountability by taking responsibility for the outcome of their actions and decisions.
It's a weekend deal, and we cannot do it all alone. So every now and then we bring in someone in the studio to ensure that he gets us educated on what we are discussing today. And I have a guest seated here with me. I don't know who better could have been here as a guide on this topic than Dr. Umar Buba Bender. At the moment, he is a Special Assistant to the President and National Coordinator, National Investment Program, FMHA. And I know at a point, too, you were the SSG at Adamawa State.
Yes,
and of course, you are a member of the APC.
Thank you very
I chose
much.
to put that last because we're actually zeroing in on the party primaries and party democracy and everything party at the moment, because we believe that the party is the bedrock. It's like the family.
Yes.
The family is the first, the smallest unit of a society. The congresses are going on. Some have been done. Some are still in the process. I read something about the, PDP, 5 days to come. And at the moment, there are already factions going on. How do we always have this?
Well, politics, as a philosophical tool to form an organization, to somehow deceive or convince people that that group can change the lives of people has always been there. And people who are dealt into this seriously are called politicians. You don't go to school to learn to become politician. You don't enter the military to become politician. Politician is just a platform that is open to everybody. And you can see soldiers are in it, businessmen are in it, civil servants will graduate or retire and they are in it. So it's a platform. But a politician does not exist visibly without a political party. And the political party is the additional platform that now is formed based on some principles. So there are political parties that will be viewed to be a little bit on the right, a little bit in the left, or in the middle, depending on what they believe in. There are political parties that are very socialistic. If we come into power, we will provide the leadership to ensure that everybody is happy. There are political parties that are very capitalistic in nature. If we come into power, we'll provide the leadership to ensure that there's entrepreneurship, there's creating of wealth, irrespective of whether it is shared well or not. So it's a very attractive platform because it has no age limit in terms of being a politician.
Okay.
And
except you're below 18, right?
If you are to contest. But a politician, you can get a 100-year-old person who is very influential as a politician, but he will not contest. So, and these politics and party politics are guided by certain things, but guided by law. And that is why you have electoral commissions, electoral laws, party formation acts, and so on and so forth. So in our country, parties evolve, and the genesis of all these challenges that you see is that when you are in leadership, directly or indirectly, there are accrued benefits attached to it. And that benefit, in most cases, has funds or money first, and then influence, and literally, in some cases, being even above the law. You know, so it's very attractive. And therefore, people can do anything to actually grab that. So the secret is, first, you are a politician, you are convinced that you want to play a role, either to be elected or to play a role to elect people. Then you have to belong to the party that matters. A very popular party that people will like or will love to elect leaders, and then from there the benefits will start flowing. So what you see is happening is that we have major political parties that are very, very visible. We have minor ones that are not visible at all. And in the major parties, these are the parties that have gotten the chances to actually form the government. And therefore everybody is flexing to ensure that their own becomes the leaders. So and that's why you see this factionalization. But the process is very, very clear. It's technically very clear. First, you belong to the party. The party must have leadership. For APC, our great party, at the ward level, there is leadership in the party, and there are 27 executive committee members at the ward level. And for the nearly 10,000 wards in Nigeria, you have 10,000 multiplied by 27. That is the pool of party leadership you have there. Then you have the leadership at the local government level. Again, the executives per local government, they are 27. Of the 774 local government areas, APC has all these 27 leaders within. And then you have the 36 states. You have to have the states executive. There are 36 there. And then you go to the top, which is the national, and that is where you see the people flexing, because at the national, the leadership of the party at the national is literally the leadership. They make the decisions that will cascade right down to the bottom. So this is the influencing platform that you see people flexing to have control.
Okay, thank you, sir. And another question, and it has also been a controversial question, is also, I mean, you would expect party politics is bound by, certain principles, but what you see is a lot of defection, from one party to another and back to the other party, swearing allegiance one day and then going against, your pledges the day after. Why all that, and why isn't there a guidance in that regard?
Well, to me, I have been part of it for some time. You see, I started as an academic. I'm an engineer by training, and I learned the art of theory, philosophy, and documentation, and so on. I graduated from academics into the civil service. I rose to the highest level. So I knew policies, working with leaders, and so on. And then I drifted and became a chief executive of an institution. Now I know how to manage an entity. I have my budget, I have my staff. Then I moved to work with the politicians. And I can tell you, with all this history, that working with the politicians served as a new platform of life, because you sit there, you will see ridiculous things, you will see things that doesn't make sense, you will see sensible things, you will have friends, you will have enemies. It's all mixed up in one cauldron. So,
do they really have friends?
Yeah, sorry?
Do they really have friends?
Well, yeah, you will. You will have friends, people who will either directly or indirectly, they can deceive you, they can convince you that they are the friends of yours. But when they don't get what they want, you will know exactly what they are.
It's not permanent friendship.
Yeah. So what you are saying,
yes, sir,
in drifting, people moving from one point to another, is all about interest. And the interest, first of all, is that we want to control the party. And to control the party, you must have a bit of that EXCO content. You know, traditionally, when you are elected at the ward level, ESCO, the party card carrying members queue up or vote to get the ESCO. But the moment you get the executives at the ward level, then you start introducing what is called as the delegates. So these leaders are the ones that come together, plus a bit of some few stakeholders that will now elect the executives at the local government level. So if you don't have executive members, you are in soup. You cannot get the leaders at the state level. With the state level and the local government and a bit of stakeholders, further delegates are now formed to move to the state level elections. And these are the people who will have the card, and they are now grouped into places, and then they vote. And so the challenges in most of these issues is unfairness. When certain people control the party at the bottom, and they can sit like this and say, Madam, you will not have any stake to play. It doesn't matter who you are. I have decided. That is the beginning of the crisis. And I feel like, who do you think you are? How can you, we are in this together. And then you want to dictate, I am supporting this kid, and you are completely knocking the kid off. If it is democracy, you give everybody fair chance of elections. Nobody will. But there will be intrigues of actually how to shove people off, how to undermine people. And once you are undermined, and you believe that you have a bit of influence, then the idea of moving to another place with your own support now start getting into your head. And that's how people start moving. And sometimes you even do that animosity internally. You now say, okay, you think you have control. I have control that is not visible, and I'm going to show you that I have control. So, and that is how you now start seeing what we call as anti-party activities. So whatever this guy likes, you will go against it. So you don't care whether the party drowns or not, and therefore the rancor continues.
You know, I try to always observe some other democracies outside of our world in comparison with ours. I noticed that certain countries have, you know, like us too, predominantly two parties. And each of those parties, people join because they represent their ideology, their personality. I recall in psychology, they will tell you personality traits. You have people who are liberal, people who are this, people who are that. So you join a party that represents your personality, your ideology. In Nigeria, do we join a political party because it represents that? Because why I'm asking this question is still follow up on what you said. If I join a party because this party has my ideology, this party has my personality, why would I want to in 2 days, you know, move to another one? It doesn't make sense.
I think most people tend to get shocked with this kind of analogy. Of course, joining a political party has an ideological platform for you to follow. This party likes to conquer poverty, and I don't like poverty. Therefore, I'm going to join it to do my best to ensure that poverty is conquered. This party likes the organized private sector and business, and therefore, I'm a business-oriented person. I will join it. But in our country, it dilly-dallies, and the ideology just disappears. You remember, I was very young then. You know, you knew exactly what Awolowo stood for when he was with his party. You knew exactly what Aminu Kano, without even seeing him, not even seeing his picture, you knew what he stood for, and so on and so forth. But nowadays, it's very difficult to actually come up with that, to say that this is the party and it stands for this, and I'm going to hook, line and sinker, go for it. I think even our leaders acknowledge the fact that our country has 2 or 3 or 4 challenges. First, I think our poverty is very, very high. When poverty is very high, the discontent among the pool of people, particularly those who elect, is very high, and therefore chances are that when you're talking nicely, you know, I will give you water, I will give you housing, I'll give you food, I'll give you jobs, it becomes very nice and people will follow you. Second, I think our country has a very, very high challenges with corruption. Corruption in our country is not really the very basic corruption of unfairness people talk about. It's corruption about dragging resources away from development to yourself. And people like to be part of that largesse of pulling things. Therefore, it becomes political in the sense that if I am part of the leadership, I may be able to get a slice of the cake, and therefore you go for it. You start moving from one point to the other.
Could this be the reason why you also moved from PDP at a point to APC?
Yes, I think a number of things. When you see, our own politicians have a very, very natural instinct or smell for where the winning the balance goes. You know, at the state is the governorship, right? The governor is the lord of the state. It doesn't matter what anybody. I was there at the bottom. All these things about local governments, this, that. The governor is sitting at the top, controls everything. It's not like the federal level. Therefore, when you look at the dynamics and you see the government guided by the election of the governor is drifting towards a particular place, and you know that for the next 4 years this governor will be on the seat, and you're not going to be part of the party, chances are that if you are not patient, you will shift and you declare your... The same thing at the federal level. President is at the top, you know, is the shaker and mover. And if you check and you see that the presidency is, you know, shifting towards a particular personality or party, chances are that for 4 years you will be out of the game completely. And therefore you start moving with your followers and your resources to now align so that you don't lose out. So I think this became a hidden principle for the Nigerian politician.
You pointed out something talking about poverty being a challenge, and of course with poverty comes illiteracy, worse yet miseducation. So what is being done, especially, you know, from the grassroots level, and of course for the younger ones who are hoping to be mentored by their politicians? What is being done to educate and enlighten so that they know those people who have integrity, those people who should be in that position of power to rule and of course to change the country?
Literally are talking about the future. You see, you just touched a situation that is dead into my heart. I am an educationist. I told you I was an academic. I grew up in a Malam's house. My father was an Islamic Malam. All this Al-Majiri that you hear, I was part of it.
Okay.
And that is the secret of development. Get the children organized in a very, very well educated manner. Chances are that whatever you say, they will analytically understand that. And I'll give you an example. I have a tool here.
Okay.
In this country, we have like 13 or so million out of school children. Many of them, particularly in the north, are termed as the Almajiris.
Yes.
And if you close your eyes, you see these young Almajiris on the street. They're 10 years. Before you say Michael Jackson, it's another 10 years, and now they are 20 years. You know you have a problem. So unless you do something about this, your own snowball effect on challenges will just continue. So to me, I looked at this as a scientist, and I said, is there, just like your question, is there something that can be done? And I came up with a device. I studied this, and I saw that the average Almajiri has a wooden slate that they go for the Islamic, and then they write on it, and then that is a complex education system. It catches you when you are 1 year old, and you grow through that, and you can memorize the Quran using this slate. But memory of the Quran does not give you the capability to even clean a car properly. It is not a skill-based training unless if you... So I came up with this.
Okay.
You see this?
Oh, I thought it was a computer.
Yes, it's a device.
Your laptop.
You see, if you do that, it becomes the slate.
And it's designed in that fashion as well.
And that is the design of the slate. But instead of just a slate, right, it is now digital. So you have the iPad there, which is now very readily available, and you can also write. So you have a pen. That pen comes out, and I'll just show you in a minute how it works. If you write here, it writes there. But it's not just the writing. You can write Arabic, you can write English, you can write arithmetic,
Wow.
you can do everything, so it's in it. And so if you let me start it and you see what happens. If
I can write my name now, it will show that.
If you write your name, it will show up.
Okay.
Yeah. So so the whole idea is that.
Now my question is.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see now. So if you have Joy, you see.
No, my name is not Joy.
No, I'm just saying Joy. What's your name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. So you write there, Ellie. You see?
Okay, that's my name.
But then you can also write Arabic. You see? You can write Arabic. So now, in addition to this reading and writing, you can even go to the software side where you have a lot of applications. You can read the Quran itself. When you can have the whole Quran on there and you can sit down and read it. So this slate has the Quran, which is the traditional function of this, and then it has trades, how to weave your hair, how to cook egusi, how to repair phones, all embedded in this as applications. And then it has moral packages where this is how to greet your parents, this is how to greet your elders, and we will plant more on politics.
Okay.
This is what party politics is. Don't go fighting, and begging is not good.
Okay, so the whole essence, if I understand, is to educate them so much so that they will no longer be used as political talks?
Yes, but you see, the thing is, if you do that, it will sit, it becomes a computer. But the innovative part of it, you see this head that is soft? If I undo it here, I take the head off, any other kid can use it other than the Muslim kid. This is the whole brand for the slate, this head. Once I take it off and I can unscrew it here, this device, it has 2 SIM cards, it has good memory, it has a camera. So literally, this is a school. For the first time in the history of this country, that we have now come up with a device to say we are taking schooling to the child, rather than struggling to build schools, to ensure that you get teachers and so on and so forth. And because it is a modern, it's technology based, you are introducing children to technology, the latest technology, to the at the beginning. So literally, this Nigeria has done it. This is the first time that is done, and we believe that we can. It's a Nigerian designed. It's a patent owned by a Nigerian. It is being manufactured in China for now, but Nigeria is going to move that capability to ensure that out-of-school children in Africa are now mainstreamed into the latest level. In fact, the dream of this slate is that when you are looking for a highly skilled person to do anything for you, you will look for an Almajiri first.
That's nice.
Before anything. So this is in line with what you are saying. The Nigerians have ideas. We know our challenges, and we're doing everything to align solutions to our challenges so that we can be able to look at the future. The solution is not to sit on the fence and not to run away from it. Nigerians are good, and we can actually turn this country to become very
And
good.
some people are actually concurring with what he says. Somebody says, yeah, Nigeria will work if we allow new people with fresh ideas to govern it. Let people get involved, and so on. He says he's writing in from Lafia. And let's see, electronic voting. Someone says electronic voting will positively impact on our political culture. Our leaders will appreciate the fact that power actually belongs to the people. This will correct the impression that the rich decides and controls the Commonwealth. Okay, this is from Mr. Brown, and he says, thank you so much for what you have been saying. And let's see if we can take one more before we leave. He says, good morning. My view is we should upgrade online voting. Still talking about voting. This is from Lawrence, and Lawrence is writing in from Ichegun. And I guess a lot of them are still saying you're doing all of that. But before I leave, a lot of Nigerians are rooting for electronic voting. What's your take?
Well, electronic vote, the whole thing that everybody is saying is about transparency and fairness. If you can queue up peacefully and vote, it's transparency, and people can count it, and the results will be announced, no influence. Is probably better than electronic voting because I can greet you on the queue, I have not seen you for a long time, and it improves our community. But everybody who is concerned about electronic voting is feeling that this thing that you have papers, people can abuse it. This queue for somebody to be counting, people can abuse it. But electronic is robotic. Therefore, people cannot influence it. It is a good idea. It is quick. You have your data instantly, and you can regurgitate the processes very, very quickly. But
what about network issues?
Well, that is what I'm trying to say. These things, you cannot just do it like that. It has to go with your own level of development. We are not a developing country for nothing. All developing countries in the world are literally countries that are good in doing the wrong things. So the moment you reduce wrong things, we too will develop. And electronic, digital transparency comes with development. And it is only us that can be able to do it. If you can't do it manually, transparently, even the digital cannot be done transparently.
Okay. Thank you very much. And just before you round up, somebody says, I need the Quranic book badly, please. And he didn't indicate his name. And I think this one is also for, he said, good morning. I love the doctor's speech. Can he be my mentor? I don't know. Say yes.
Automatic. It's approved. And I will be your mentor. I also have mentors. I am like this because I had good mentors. Anybody who believes that I can be a mentor is my pleasure. So,
okay, and on his behalf, we will say thank you, Dr. Umar Buba Bindir, Special Assistant to the President, National Coordinator, National Investment Program. And we are going to sign off with a commercial break, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And with that, we go straight to Dio's report, which is the Nigerian Youth and the Not Too Young to Run bill. Over to you, Dio. Let's have it.
The Nigerian Constitution gives rights to every Nigerian who has attained the age of 18 and residing in the country to vote. Also, in the year 2018, the Not Too Young to Run bill was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari to reduce the age limit for eligible candidates in general elections. It reduced the age qualifications for president from 40 to 30, governors from 35 to 30, senators from 35 to 30, House of Representatives membership from 30 to 25, and for House of Assembly membership from 30 to 25. Are the youths taking advantage of the Not Too Young to Run Act?
Post the 2019 elections, we had 22 young people between 25 and 29 who ran for State House of Assembly elections, and they won, their elections, and so they are in the State House of Assemblies. And those young people couldn't have run in 2019 if the Not Too Young to Run bill was not passed by the National Assembly and then assented to by the President. So young people are taking advantage of the bill. The level of youth candidacy in 2015 compared to 2019 was different. So there was an increase. In 2015, the youth candidacy was about 25%. But in 2019, it increased to about 34%. And what that suggests is there's some increase in the level of youth participation. There's increased interest on the part of young people who want to run and seek for public office.
Young voters clearly form the majority of electorate in Nigeria. More than half of the registered voters, 51.11%, are aged between 18 and 35. 29.97% are between 36 and 50 years. Why are the youth not voting?
I think the fact that young people are not turning out to vote at elections says something. That democracy and their participation has not yielded, quality governance. It's not improved the quality of their life. And so they see no reason why they should come out at elections to vote. So first is a failure of leadership, the failure of governance, discourages people from coming out to cast their vote. Because it doesn't make sense that you mobilize people to come out to vote. They stand in the sun and in the rain, they vote for leaders, and what the leaders do after they get into office is not consult with the people, or all they do is to steal public funds. So that discourages young people from participating. So first, the failure of governance. The second is the public trust in the electoral process keep diminishing.
Peaceful and credible elections with a large voters' turnout are essential for democracy to thrive. Instead, the process of electing leaders in Nigeria has been plagued by a myriad of problems, ranging from voter intimidation and suppression to harassment and outright violence. Though these acts are sponsored by political class, the youths are the tools used to perpetuate these heinous acts.
Parties should make their processes, create a level playing field for young people, for women and persons with disability. The parties are going into a convention, an elective convention. The question is, how many young people are they positioning to take leadership, not just youth leader positions? So they need to create more spaces for young people to hold leadership positions within the parties. The second point is the cost of politics and the cost of running for office and nomination. It is too high. You cannot charge people, you cannot charge an economically disadvantaged population millions of naira just to procure nomination forms.
The Nigerian youth must begin to align their energy towards meaningful engagement in Nigerian politics. They must begin to see themselves as leaders of today and not leaders of tomorrow. They must take ownership of their democracy.
Yes, we must take ownership. Nigeria is ours. And if we must forge a way forward, youths must come in full time, because they say that they are the future leaders. Did I say they are? We are. I'm a youth. Yes. Are you a youth?
I am.
Okay.
I just
Even when
turned
I
18.
go 80, I'll still be a youth. All right. So one of the reasons why the youth say that they cannot fully participate is the thrust of our discussion today. That's the absence of internal democracy in the parties themselves, the political parties. Now, Mr. Bayo Ogori took time to re-examine this. Let's see it.
Political parties comprises of people with common interests and ideology with the purpose of contesting, winning elections and taking control of government. However, political parties, as presently constituted, as some analysts observed, are a gathering of strange bedfellows, persons who share different aspirations and ideologies. Hence, they engage in frequent squabbles within the party.
In any democracy, political parties are the essential organ of the democratic process. And clearly, whether the institution of representative democracy has a hopeful future depends essentially on the management of political parties, particularly with respect to the issues of internal party democracy. The parties we have at the moment are not showing or demonstrating any form of ideology that they could be attached to them. The misconception is that if you are in power in Nigeria, then that means ideology. That is not ideology at all.
The parties are often hijacked by the rich and famous who control the affairs of the party. They determine who gets what against popular wish of the majority. This has led to intra-party wranglings resulting to endless legal tussles and settling of disputes and reconciliation of feuding party members.
Political parties management in Nigeria, if we must tell ourselves the unattractive truth, the inconvenient truth, that it has been unmitigated disaster. And that is why efforts to consolidate our democracy have become very difficult. So internal party democracy is very key and it should be seen as an indestructible bedrock if we are to sustain this democracy. But at the moment, internal party democracy is lacking in our system, and that is why the choice of who becomes a candidate has been a troubling one. And the moment that happens, it tells you the crisis we are going to have in the main election, because the crisis will start first from political party management.
Aside the prohibitive cost of funds for elective positions, there are other unethical scheming within political parties. Electoral victories of popular candidates at party primaries are often upturned by influential party officials in favor of their favorites. This has led to a series of litigation running into the elections and in some instances the courts reversing such decisions.
One of the reasons why INEC has been on the continuous path of innovation is to ensure that the greatest promise of democracy, which is democratic empowerment of the people through the process of participation, is achieved in this country. This is so because the whole embrace of democracy is essentially because people are required to participate. And participation brings about accountability in the process of collective governance, which is what democracy is all about in the final analysis. On the part of INEC, as a creation of law, first, all laws, regulations that were enjoined in the Constitution, first shall be obeyed on our own part. We must also be seen to obey the law and shall be enforced. In relation to political parties, fully, fairly, and impartially, so that we can sustain our democracy.
The expected dividends of democracy can only be achieved if political parties allow their members to fully participate in their activities. The presence of internal democracy in political parties will allow disadvantaged groups such as youths, women, and people living with disabilities to participate in the electoral process.
All right, so the absence of a democracy in our political parties today. And I want to tidy up this conversation this weekend with another legendary personality for me who is well vested to speak on it. And I'm talking about a man with a lot of FMR attached to his name. A lot of farmers are really of a lot of things. But for me, very importantly, you are a political scientist and has been VCs of different institutions, including our own dear Abuja University here, or University of Abuja. And I want to start by saying that recently you delivered a paper, but let me welcome first Professor Nuhu Yakub.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The paper you delivered recently was on the absence of internal democracy in our political parties. And it's so in time for us, especially with a lot of things that are going on at the moment. So what's your take on this?
Well, the issue of internal democracy in the political parties is very germane to, if you are discussing the issue of democratization. We can't have democracy when you don't have parties. That is the first instance. Then you also don't have democracy if the basic ingredients of democracy, which is building consensus, motivating people to come and be members of the party, and making sure that everybody has full participation. It's very critical. Otherwise, you muzzle people and they become to begrudge. And especially what we have seen in this country in the past, especially throughout this period of an attempt to build a very strong democratic system from 1999 to date. What you have had is a situation where people either get frustrated and they begin to wonder about and in most cases they will go into other parties and discover that people who were already there before their arrival have consolidated, and it is on their terms. People will not, and then people again will, if they get frustrated, they begin to look for a way out. I think it's very critical that we understand that political parties are central to democratization, and also that when people are members, and in fact, by definition, a political party is a party of people of like minds. And if you don't have that, then you are not talking of any democracy. Yeah, that's basically the point.
That's what I've always thought. Okay, so now speaking of that, I'm wondering, again, I like to go to solution.
Yeah.
What can we do? Because Anambra, there's a whole lot going on, and it's been going on for quite a while. Even the newspapers today carry them. Without being specifics, I'd like to know, what can we do to really expunge all these unnecessary crises and institute the nascent democracy as it should be?
I always want to, when questions of this nature is asked to me, I always want to go back to the report of Uwais Committee on the electoral reforms. And the critical phrase they use in that report is what they call mindset of Nigerian politicians. The mindset, and also the followers, the followership. The mindset is such that, we are already determined that, we will not allow democracy to subsist. And that is what, is so important for us to look at now. What this the mindset is very negative. We go into we go into, either election or, as members of a political party and say, oh, I have my own interest, which must be superimposed on the interest of, the generality of the people. And no, that is not the case. As I said earlier, democracy is about building consensus. And there must be competition, which is, quite glaringly, very diverse. We should just get this, key ingredients into the system, and we simply don't have it. So I would believe that what we need to struggle for, since we are talking about a solution, is that we should, find a way of cultivating, the change of this mindset, negative mindset towards politics.
Exactly.
Because if you don't do it, you keep on having. It is not only that we will not have, internal democracy in the parties, but you go to the extreme of creating, havoc. What happens? What happens is that you get individuals being violated, either they are killed or their properties are destroyed, and those are not. Those are alien completely to politics, democratic politics.
Okay, talking about internal democracy or lack thereof, that is always the premise for people to defect from one party. The next thing, when things are not stable, they defect back. The same people who were swearing allegiance are now contradicting themselves. What, in your opinion, are or should be the rules of engagement in that process? What are those rules that are set to, stop or control or curb the, the defections?
I also want, and I want to go back to history. During the First Republic,
yes, sir,
we had, political. For instance, NCNC was built by, by civil society organizations. Particularly key in the NCNC then, during the First Republic, was the role of Igbo town unions. They were very critical in the formation, because NCNC was found everywhere in Nigeria, and people, Igbos who were, they formed their, their Igbo organizations in various cities and towns. They found themselves. So you now have a situation where individuals actually were active members of these parties. That is one, and they were fee-paying members, which is also critical. These days you have political parties that state managed, or not even state managed, that are clearly products of the government. Particularly this was the case during the formation of SDP and NRC.
Yes.
During the government came very forcefully. So individuals are not actually stakeholders. They are not. So, but therefore, what we need to actually make sure that these bad tendencies, as I will put it, will not manifest themselves. What we do is to go back to original idea of membership. How do parties recruit members? how active are the members? Do they pay their membership fees? Are they actually stakeholders that have a stake in what goes on in the party? Yeah. And then we also need to have, leadership that will come up and, really see party as an organization that has brought diverse people. Because if you look at APC, you look at PDP, what you have is that, Nigerians, and we're still we're very diverse.
It's like a football club.
Yeah, that's right. You see, people coming from different angles, different socioeconomic backgrounds and so on, being members. So we have to admit that we are individuals, but we have collective interest,
yes,
which should now be promoted in the party. And a party, political party, must be, an organ that fights to get to power. And the only way you can do it is to ensure that, especially if it is democracy you want to practice, if you don't, it's not just that you want to impose a dictator, then you have to allow people to come in, say their peace of mind, and, if there is any, certainly any human organization, is liable to, one problem or the other. Why don't you create, rooms for resolving such conflicts?
All right, we actually don't have much of time, but you kept talking and I kept hearing one word, and it caught me, that's individual.
Yeah.
If I don't want to join a party,
yeah,
what's my take if I want to become an individual candidate?
Well, this is what the Constitution has not also provided for. And I think we have to look at it going forward. Because, independent candidature is also something that is factored into democratic politics. So we should actually encourage it. In fact, probably when you have that, you will now see,
away a lot
exactly. This rancor you are getting in this can be partially solved. Because, individuals can say, okay, I am not going to belong to a party X or party Y, but, let me stand for a particular office on my own account.
Exactly.
And, the Constitution should guarantee this. Until we do this also, we probably will not be able to attack the problem of divisions in parties that sometimes lead to people, either, the campaign, or as you said earlier, they come back again if where their destination is not feasible for them.
And also probably just throwing the baby with the bathwater.
With the bathwater. That's right.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Nuhu Yakub. And
thank you so
it's
very
always
much.
A pleasure to have you on board and get us enlightened. In front of the camera and outside, I'm the only woman. But I'm
as
telling
you would
them,
say,
the
woman
women,
united.
Yeah, woman united, yes. So if you think of Woman United, you also think of Nigerian United.
Definitely.
And when we're united, we do things well, including avoiding voter apathy, both at the political party level and, of course, the general election level. Let's play our part. Get united, be good citizens. We'll see you again next week. Bye.